Hoş geldiniz. Welcome to our deep dive into a really fascinating topic. Today we're exploring Turkey's remarkable cultural footprint on the world stage. But we're not talking about monuments or ruins here. We're looking at the living, breathing practices that actually define a culture. This is the intangible heritage officially recognized by UNESCO. So we're not just looking at a list, we are literally unpacking the soul of an entire region.
27. That is the exact number of distinct cultural items Turkey has successfully described on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage lists. And what is just so incredible about this collection is the sheer variety. I mean, we're talking about everything from ancient whistling languages echoing across steep mountain peaks to the exact methodical way you brew a perfect cup of coffee. It is this massive, beautifully diverse portfolio of human ingenuity.
Now, to really grasp the global significance of these 27 items, we're going to break them down into four main themes. We'll look at storytelling and performing arts, social rituals and festivals, traditional arts and crafts, and finally, we'll look at heritage and urgent need.
But how did we get to 27? Well, Turkey's preservation efforts didn't just happen overnight. They really gained momentum back in 2008 with deeply spiritual practices like the Mevlevi Sema. Then, by 2013, everyday staples like Turkish coffee were recognized. And just look at 2023. That was a massive multi-entry year where 5 new traditions were added, including traditional wood carving. So the momentum of preserving these traditions is actually accelerating.
So let's kick things off with our first theme, storytelling and performing arts, and how they entertain and unite generations.
For centuries, way before the digital age, physical performances and oral traditions were the main way to captivate audiences, pass down history, and bring people together. And the diversity here is just staggering. On one hand, you've got the deeply spiritual, rhythmic dances of the Alave Bektashi Sema and the spinning and Movli Sema rituals, which are all about music and divine devotion. But then, on the other hand, you have Meddallik, which is this brilliant form of one-man theater based entirely on vocal imitation. Plus, there's the Ashiklik tradition, the incredible art of improvisational minstrelsy performed with a stringed instrument.
And speaking of storytelling, we have to talk about Karagöz. This is definitely not your average puppet show. It's a traditional shadow play, and the mechanical genius behind it is absolutely captivating. Artisans painstakingly craft these figures out of treated camel or buffalo leather. They paint them so that when they're placed in front of a light source, they project these vibrant, moving characters onto a thin screen. It is quite literally ancient animation, bringing leather to life through light.
Now, what's really fascinating is how this shared heritage proves that culture completely ignores modern borders. Take the satirical humor of Nasruddin Hoxha. It isn't just Turkish. It's shared across Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Or look at the epic oral tales of Dadi Korkut and the melancholic sounds of the May or Balaban woodwind instrument. These represent a shared regional language connecting Central Asia through art and laughter.
That brings us to our second theme, social rituals and festivals. This is all about building community through shared experiences.
These traditions are crucial because they actively foster deep social bonds. This is how Turkish culture builds enduring connections, whether we're talking about massive yearly gatherings or just quiet daily community rituals. And maintaining that cohesion takes practice. It happens through seasonal celebrations like Hazirolez, a spring festival shared with North Macedonia that marks the awakening of nature. Or consider the traditional Mongola strategy game, shared with Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, where moving stones across a board acts as a bridge for intergenerational bonding and strategic thinking.
In this culture, food and drink are rarely just about calories. Take Turkish coffee. It's intimately tied to fortune-telling and deep conversation. Making lavash or flatbread involves the entire community gathering around a hearth to knead and bake together. And tea culture, with those iconic tulip-shaped glasses, is the absolute emblem of daily hospitality. Brewing coffee or sharing tea isn't just about drinking a beverage. It is a highly evolved, vital mechanism for connection.
And these communal activities scale up even further. Look at the Kirkpinar Oil Wrestling Festival in Edirne, where wrestlers completely drenched in olive oil compete in a centuries-old test of strength. We also see this solidarity in traditional sohbet meetings, the practice of Turkish archery, and the keşkek ceremony, where huge crowds gathered to ceremonially beat and cook meat and wheat in giant cauldrons for weddings and holidays. For a really specific, just amazing visual, picture the Mesir Makuno Festival. This is a centuries-old spring festival in the city of Manasa. They create a specialized healing paste crafted from exactly 41 different spices, wrap it in paper, and then joyously scatter it from a mosque directly into the cheering crowds below. It's an incredible visual and aromatic celebration of both spring and health.
Moving into our third theme, we're stepping away from the roar of festivals and entering the quiet, meticulous world of traditional arts and crafts. These are the deeply focused, striking visual masterpieces that usually require a lifetime of dedication to master. You have chini, those iconic glazed ceramics that completely define regional architecture. But what's really cool are the specific rules within these arts. Miniature painting, for example, deliberately lacks depth perception to create a highly detailed, flat visual narrative. And husni hat, the art of traditional calligraphy, is bound by incredibly strict mathematical aesthetic measurements to perfectly render Arabic letters. Add in intricate wood carving and tezhib, which is the illumination of manuscripts with gold dust, and you get this rich tapestry of visual heritage.
A perfect example of the magic in these crafts is ebru, or paper marbling. The physical process here is absolutely fascinating. The artist doesn't actually paint on paper. Instead, they float special, natural pigments on top of water that's been thickened with a plant resin called tragacanth, or khitre. They manipulate the colors right on the water's surface to create intricate patterns, and then carefully lay a sheet of paper on top to absorb the exact, unrepeatable design.
We also see how raw, natural materials are masterfully transformed. Traditional silk production, which is actually a multinational heritage recognized across several countries, including Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Iran, starts with the incredibly delicate extraction of fine threads directly from a silkworm cocoon. That thread is then spun and masterfully woven into refined traditional silk fabric. It's literally the ultimate transformation of nature into culture.
Which brings us to our fourth and final section. Heritage in urgent need. Because right now, we are in a race against time.
You see, this story isn't just about celebration. It is very much about survival. The contrast we're looking at is pretty stark. 25 of the items we've discussed are thriving. They are actively celebrated, shared across borders, and firmly rooted in modern life. But there are two critically endangered practices that have been placed on UNESCO's urgent safeguarding list. They need immediate intervention before they disappear forever. The first one is Izlek Dili, commonly known as bird language. Imagine living in the incredibly steep, rugged mountains of the eastern Black Sea region. Well before cell phones existed, villagers developed this brilliant adaptation. They translated the full Turkish vocabulary into a series of precise, high-pitched whistles using just their fingers, tongue, and teeth. It allows complex messages to echo across deep valleys. But as technology advances and rural populations shift, this incredibly unique human adaptation is falling silent.
The second endangered item is Ahlat stone masonry. This is the highly specific regional architectural knowledge of extracting and carving volcanic stone in the Ahlat district of Bitlis. This exact volcanic stone was famously used to craft towering, intricate tombstones and historical structures. But unfortunately, the master-apprentice chain is breaking, and the specific knowledge required to shape this unyielding volcanic rock is at serious risk of fading away into history.
So that leaves us with one final thought to ponder. These 27 traditions, from the illuminated shadow plays of Karagöz to the whistling languages of the Black Sea Mountains, have somehow survived centuries of war, famine, and changing empires to reach us today. The real question isn't just about what they mean to us right now, it's about our responsibility. Which of these traditions will we successfully preserve, protect, and pass on to the next generation? Thank you so much for exploring these remarkable cultural treasures with me today.